Ravens Vail is a dark fantasy horror anthology podcast that may contain explicit language and thematic elements not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Ravens Vail, a dark fantasy Southern Gothic horror anthology podcast set in the shadowy world of the Deep South. A convergent reality situated around what most of humanity has accepted as the truth. Obscured from human eyes, Ravens Vail is a mystical sanctuary intended to preserve the existence of its immortal inhabitants. The Macquarie, commonly referred to as witches, have been hunted since before written history. The witches of the Highlands fled persecution to a new land that would come to be known as Appalachia. In these parts, you should always be leery of the things that scare witches. The veil is thin tonight, family. Let's see what darkness lies beyond.
Well, hey there, family. Come on in and slide up close. We've been waiting on you, and it sure does my heart good to see yous gather around again. Feels mighty fine to say that after being off a spell. That little breather we took, Lord love it, it did our old souls some good. Gave us time to rest our weary old bones, clear our heads, and let the stories start flowing again. And flow they did. We've been itching something fierce to get back to untelling you about the goings-on over there at Ravens Vail. Now let me think a minute. Where in the wide world did we leave off? If my memory were worth a nickel, somebody'd be asking for change, 'cause it's been wandering like a stray hound. But I do recollect this much. Over them last 2 episodes, we learned a heap about Miss Helen, and we stood right there beside Miss Sibyl as she mourned her daddy's passing. Poor girl's been carrying more sorrow than any one heart ought to hold. Life's a tangle sometimes, and hers is knotted up tighter than a string of Christmas lights. All righty now, settle yourselves down, family. Let that breath out nice and easy and slow. This episode's bringing a mix of closure and heartache, truths that have been hiding, waiting for the right moment to rise up. And you know how it is in these mountains. Nothing stays buried for long, not memories, not mistakes, and sure sunrise, not the truth. The sanctuary was still dark when the Right Reverend Theodore Eugene Atwood slipped inside, the old brass key turning with a soft, familiar click. Dawn hadn't yet brushed its fingers across the stained glass, and the air held that cool, settled hush only an empty church can keep. He walked to the center aisle slowly, his fingertips drifting along the pews with little silent taps as if he was greeting a row of elders who had been waiting on him since before first light. The Right Reverend could feel the memories of the first days of his ministry when the congregation was young and he would walk down these aisles with more purpose. The breeze of his passing each pew would pull at his clothes, his fingers thumping loudly as they grounded him in his most holy of places. The near listless meandering he was doing now was not something he would have pictured in those early years. Theo was old by the standard of a human, and he knew that every beginning had an end. But he never thought about those endings before they came. At the altar, he knelt, not with the practiced ease of a pastor setting himself up for worship, but with the heaviness of a man who carried a hard truth longer than he'd cared to admit. His shoulders rose and fell with a quiet rambling. bowing his head low, he whispered,
Lord, I need your strength. I need your steady hand. If this is the road I'm meant to walk, guide me. And if I'm wrong, turn me from it before I speak a single word.
His voice thinned out at the end barely more than a breath. For months, he'd been living in two worlds. New Salem Missionary Baptist Church waited on him with patient hope, while the old home place of Ravens Vail tugged at him with a call that didn't speak loud, but spoke true. Ruby B. had already gone on ahead, tending to family matters folks didn't talk about in public spaces. All they knew was she was needed, and she went. What they didn't know was that young Sibyl, their niece, had been left standing in the ashes of too much loss. Both her parents gone, her world cracked clean open. And though nobody asked it of him, Theo felt the pull of kin stronger than any sermon he had ever preached. He and Ruby B. were the last steadiness that girl had left. Every time he came back to the church, he felt the strain of it. Two responsibilities rising like mountains on either side of him. Two loves calling his name. He'd prayed over it till the prayers felt like chores a man does without thinking, 'cause they've become part of his bones. The sanctuary stayed silent, but in that silence, something settled inside him. Not really a sign from heaven, not a flash of revelation, just a quiet knowing that felt older than he was. He rose slow and placed both hands on the pulpit, steadying himself like it might lend him some courage. Soon the choir would come, then the deacons, then the congregation, those familiar faces who had waited on him with hope and patience. They did not yet know this morning would be his last as their shepherd. He opened his Bible, not to prepare a sermon, but to anchor his spirit. This Bible had seen him through the best and worst of 4 decades. It wouldn't last much longer. Even with his careful, gentle touches, the binding frayed and the ink was fading from too much light, too many evenings reading in the porch swing. His eyes fell on the verse he had read more times than he could count. Yet today, it felt like it had been set there just for him.
To everything, there is a season.
He closed the book gently. A shimmer of light stirred near the side door. Ruby B. stepped in, her presence quiet but sure. She walked to him with the confidence of a mountain woman who had weathered storms and still stood tall. She wrapped her arms around him, held him close, kissed him soft, and touched his cheek like a blessing. Then she slipped to the back of the church to greet the first parishioners as they arrived. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Theo straightened his jacket and wiped a tear from his eyes and whispered one last prayer.
Walk with me, Lord. Help me speak this with love.
The doors opened. Warm greetings filled the sanctuary. Soft laughter, the rustle of bulletins. Reverend Atwood stepped forward and lifted a hand. The room quieted at once. Folks could feel something in the air, something solemn, something tender.
My beloved family, I've been away tending to family matters. Ruby B is here today, and Lord knows I need her by my side. I've missed y'all something fierce.
He paused, letting the hush settle.
Before I speak a word about my own journey, I want to anchor us in the scripture that has carried me through every season of ministry. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. There comes a time in every disciple's life when God asks us to walk a road we didn't expect. A road that don't make sense on paper. A road we can't explain with our own understanding. But his voice is clear, and his direction is sure. This verse ain't a suggestion. It's a way of life. It calls us to trust with our whole heart, not the leftover pieces. It calls us to loosen our grip on what we think we know and to acknowledge him, not just in worship, not just in crisis, but in all things. And the promise is simple. If we trust him, he will guide us. This church has been my home for 22 years. You've been my joy and my blessing. But today, I stand before you with a heart full of gratitude and grief. I stand with the spirit of true surrender. The Lord has made it plain. My season as your pastor has come to an end.
A ripple moved through the congregation, gasps, tears, and a few whispers. He continued,
This ain't a decision taken lightly, nor taken alone. It's a step taken in obedience. The Lord is calling me to serve in a different way now. I must stand beside the woman who has stood beside me through every baptism, every funeral, every storm that's ever touched this place. If I leaned on my own understanding, I'd stay right here, where it's familiar and comfortable, where love has been abundant. But God don't call us to comfort. He calls us to faithfulness. I trust him with my future and yours. I trust him with the path ahead for this church. My prayer is that you too will trust him with all your heart. That you will acknowledge him in every decision and every act of love. And that you will watch as he directs your path into a future filled with his goodness. And as you choose and support your next shepherd. I may be stepping away from this pulpit, but I ain't stepping away from the love I have for you, nor from the God who binds us together. That same Lord who led me here is the Lord who now leads me on, and he is faithful in all things. I hope that each of us can walk forward, trusting him with our whole hearts, confident that the path he sets before us is always the right one. Amen.
Amen.
The congregation rose to their feet, not in protest, but in blessing. Some reached toward him. Others bowed their heads. A few wept openly, their grief mingled with gratitude. Reverend Atwood felt the weight ease up off his shoulders. That small relief made him understand he had done the right thing. And as he stepped down from the pulpit for the last time, he felt that quiet presence he had prayed for in the dark sanctuary walking beside him, steadying his steps toward whatever waited in Ravens Vail. A lightning storm had been pacing the ridgeline all evening, muttering low like a growl of an old hound and rattling the windows of the family home. At the heart of Ravens Vail stood a grand 3-story home, a stately home worthy of the high priest of the Macquarie. The air felt just as restless, humming with nerves and tension. Each flash of lightning carried the sharp metallic scent of the storm, and beneath it, she caught the wet, loamy smell of South Carolina's clay mud as fat drops of rain plopped steadily into the growing puddles. Sibyl sat on the sofa, wrapped in one of her daddy's old quilts, the family grimoire on the seat next to her. She had barely put it down since she'd gotten it. The lights flickered under the strain of the storm, stuttering in uneven pulses that washed the room in trembling gold. Petra sat nearby, folded into his favorite armchair like it was a roost he'd claimed years ago. One long leg draped over the side, the other hooked beneath him, his whole body loose and effortless in the way only he could manage. The lamplight caught his hair, long, pale blonde, soft as silk, and turned it into something that shimmered when he moved. His face, all smooth, chiseled lines, and quiet strength, looked like it was carved from the finest granite. His eyes, Lord, those eyes were the softest Sibyl had ever seen on a man. Gentle, steady, patient. The kind that made you feel like you weren't alone even when the world was falling apart. He was her best friend, her anchor, the one soul she had trusted to sit with her in the silence without trying to fix it or feel it. He watched her now with the same loyal stillness he carried since the day they met. He'd planted himself beside her and wasn't about to move unless she asked him to. The room held a long, heavy quiet, the kind that grief brings. At last, Petra spoke in a warm voice.
When are Aunt Ruby B and Uncle Theo coming home?
The question tugged her back from the far-off place her mind kept drifting towards, the house from her night terrors. Sibyl blinked, breath catching as the world slid back into focus around her.
Tomorrow. Sometime around noon.
Silence settled again. Petra watched her for a long moment, steady and unblinking, as if trying to read the sadness behind her eyes. When she finally felt the weight of his gaze, she looked up, brow knitting.
What?
She asked, genuinely unsure what he saw.
You ready to tell me what you saw?
He asked, voice low. With a long sigh, Sibyl nodded. Her throat tightened, but she pushed through it as she began to explain what had happened the moment her fingers brushed Helen's glowing signature in the family grimoire.
It wasn't just a memory. It was a pull. Like she reached straight out of the page and took me by the hand. And then it came in flashes, bright, sharp pieces of her life. Her childhood, her heartbreaks, her triumphs, her loneliness, her magic. She wanted me to understand her. All of her. Every piece she left behind for us to carry.
Petra blinked, his brow furrowing.
Us?
Sibyl's head snapped up, eyes shining with something fierce.
Yes, Petra, us. You think she didn't see you? You think she didn't know you?
She leaned forward, voice softening.
Do you remember how she took a shine to you the day we went looking for her? How she watched you like she was reading the story of your whole life right off your face? She could tell how hard things had been for you. She knew that kind of hurt. She recognized it.
Petra looked down, unsure.
I didn't know that she noticed me like that.
Oh, she did. My mama, Ruby B, my grandparents, they were all the kind of people who loved hard without conditions. Helen was cut from that same cloth, even if she was different.
Sibyl murmured.
Different? How so?
Petra echoed, cautious. Sibyl nodded slowly.
Yeah. Different in ways folks didn't always understand. She had a fiancé once, Jeryd Whithall. Jade and Helen, well, they were like you.
Petra's head lifted at that, curiosity flickering across his face. Sibyl continued, voice dipping into almost something reverent.
Jade was stable, quiet, where Helen was loud, strong in that soft, unshakable way that don't need to prove itself. She just loved Helen with her whole heart, even when the world didn't make room for the two of them. And Helen, she never stopped carrying that love, not even at the end.
She paused, letting the weight of it settle between them. Sibyl's voice dropped to almost nothing.
That's only one of the reasons she showed me these memories. She pulled me into her life so I could see the truth of who she was. And she wanted you to know you were not alone in the ways you've been hurt.
She whispered, taking a slow, deep breath.
She made me promise I'd look out for you. Truth is, she didn't have to make me promise a thing. I was already set on it. You're my brother, Petra. Blood or not, you're stuck with me.
Petra's throat worked as he tried to swallow, a few tears slipping free before he could stop them, and the room settled into a quiet that felt soft instead of heavy. After a long moment, it was Sibyl who spoke again.
Petra, did you mean it when you said you'd go to that house with me?
The nightmare house?
Yeah.
Sibyl said, a little breathless. Petra let out a long sigh.
All right, I'll go with you. But before we start trumping off into the woods, tell me again what happened. You were so worked up when you woke up from your dream. I could barely make sense of half of it.
Sibyl went quiet, her gaze drifting somewhere past his shoulder. When she finally spoke, her voice had softened.
I must have tried to tell you a dozen times now. But back when the memory spell that Daddy and Aunt Ruby B put on me was fading, I was having the same dream. Except the last part, anyway, it started the same way it always does. I opened my eyes. I was back in the woods beside that old house for my nightmares. Only this time it felt different.
Petra watched her face close, not saying a word.
I was walking that little path up to the front porch, barefoot. Gravel and twigs crackling underneath my feet. The sky was heavy and dark, and when I stepped up on the porch, it groaned, and the front door was standing wide open.
Petra's arms curled around his knees.
You went inside?
I did, just like every time before, but this time the whole place was empty. Not a stick of furniture left, and there was someone or something whispering in a language I almost knew. When I turned towards the dining room, it stretched out long and dark, like it didn't want me reaching the end.
She rubbed her arms.
It felt strange. The air smelled sour and dusty. My heart was beating slow and heavy, warning me I didn't want to go upstairs, but my feet carried me anyway.
Petra's voice dropped low.
To the attic?
Yeah. It was waiting on me. The door was already cracked open. Next thing I knew, I was already up there in front of the closet. I don't remember climbing the steps, but the closet was right in front of me. Sometimes in these nightmares, it's locked and sometimes it's not, but I always know there's something in there. There's always that trunk I don't want to see.
Petra leaned in a little.
Did you open it?
I did. I kept telling myself it was only a dream. My magic was tingling. I felt Mama close, like she was trying to steady me. I opened that trunk and the whole world felt like it was folding in on itself, like something was coming undone. I just got a glance of the side of his face, but it was definitely him. He was definitely alive.
Petra let out a slow breath.
Sibyl, that sounds like more than a dream.
I know, that's what troubles me. It's haunting me more than any dream ever did before. What if he's hurt? What if he's really in there and I'm here too scared, too afraid to do anything?
Petra shifted in his seat and let out a slow breath.
Sibyl, I hear what you're saying, and I know it felt real to you. I know that dream shook you, I can hear it in your voice. But sometimes the mind plays tricks when a person is grieving. You've been carrying your daddy's memories heavy on your shoulders. It wouldn't surprise me if your heart is trying to make sense of all that hurt and pain.
Sibyl looked away, her jaw tight. Petra softened when he saw it.
Now listen, I'm not trying to brush you off. I'm not saying you imagined it. I know it felt real. Grief can really mess us up. That house holds a lot of your past. And your dreams might be pulling pieces of it together in ways that don't make sense yet.
She swallowed hard.
It didn't feel like grief.
If this dream is weighing on you like this, then it matters. If going out there will help you settle your spirit, then I'll go with you for sure. I'm not going to let you walk into that place alone.
Her eyes lifted to his, and in an almost whispered tone, Sibyl said,
Thank you.
And I believe you. I just don't want you thinking the world is coming apart if we go there and we don't find what you're looking for.
He nodded at her once.
We'll go in the daylight after the storm passes. We'll look around, and if there's something to find, we will find it together. If it's only grief, then we'll face that together too.
The next morning, the rain had stopped and Ravens Vail smelled fresh and clean. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping, and the spring flowers were gently blowing in the breeze. She stepped out the front door and stepped down 3 little steps. Petra kept close to her.
You sure you want to do this today?
I have to.
Petra grabbed Sibyl's hand, and they took 2 steps and glinted to the house of Sibyl's nightmare. As soon as they were through the void, Petra could see the house through the trees of the woods that encircled the house. He felt it almost immediately. The feeling as if it had been waiting for them. Same sagging porch, same old doors, same heavy hush that made the air feel thick. The yard looked almost normal after all the time had passed, but you could still see the long slices, the deep gouges, and the piles of earth Vrock Corsell had made while raging outside the house before Aunt Ruby B had found Sibyl. Petra swallowed.
Looks just like you said.
It always does.
They stepped up on the porch, the boards groaning under their weight, long and tired. Inside the house was empty. No furniture, no dust, just a putrid, sour smell. Sibyl's magic prickled along her arm.
It's the same. Every corner feels like it's watching.
Petra touched her elbow.
I'm right here.
They moved through the front room, then towards the stairs. Sibyl's breath hitched.
I never want to go up, but I always do.
Then we go up together.
The stairs creaked under them, each step a memory she didn't want but couldn't shake. At the landing, the air grew colder. The attic door stood cracked open, just like in her dreams.
This is where it changes. Every time.
Petra pushed the door wider with a creak.
Then let's see what's been calling you.
The attic was dim, lit only by a thin ribbon of spring light slipping through a broken window. The closet sat at the far end, the door shut tight. Sibyl and Petra stepped to the closet. Her fingers shook as she reached for the knob.
Sometimes it's locked,
she said, but today it turned easily. Inside, the trunk waited. Old, wooden, bound in iron that looked too heavy for its size. Sibyl knelt before it, and Petra crouched beside her.
You don't have to open it. I can do that for you.
I do. Because I think he's in there. Maybe not his body, but what's left of him?
She lifted the lid. A soft light spilled out, warm and gold like the glow of a lantern held by someone who loved her once. The air shifted. The attic seemed to breathe. Then a shape rose from the trunk, slow and gentle, like a man wakened from a long sleep, and Sibyl gasped.
Daddy?
The spirit was faint, edges blurred like smoke, but his eyes were clear, kind, familiar, the same bright green she remembered from childhood.
Sibyl, you found me.
She reached out, tears slipping down her cheeks.
I thought you were gone. I thought you were dead.
I am, or at least sort of dead.
What happened to you?
Palmer's breath hitched, as though speaking about the memory weakened him somehow.
I wish I could tell you clean and certain. All I remember is the roar of the fight, the chaos, the shouting, the rush of bodies, and the flash of something moving too fast to name. It hit me hard. Whatever it was, it wrapped around me like thick, black, living tar. Cold, heavy. It crawled over my skin and sank straight through it.
He swallowed, his eyes unfocused, as if he could still feel it clinging to him.
It drained me, Sibyl. Not just my strength, but my magic. It was like someone reached inside me and turned the wick all the way down. I tried to call up even a spark, and nothing answered. I've never felt this kind of helplessness in my life.
Oh, Daddy.
Sibyl groaned, her voice cracking as she reached for him, grief and fear knotting together in her chest.
I knew everything that was happening. I was there the whole time, clear as daylight, aware of every sound and every breath around me. But I could not move. I could not sleep. My body was giving out from the inside. All I had left was my mind, so I held on to it like a lifeline. I watched. I listened. I learned. I saw every moment you sat beside me. I saw the fight inside Nadira's temple, the way the thing slid through the stone like the mountain itself had given it permission to be born there. It moved like it remembered the place, like it had walked inside those halls long before. I'm fairly sure that cursed creature used to be Marcus Alden. Somehow, he clawed his way back out of Erebothan, hollowed out and wrong in ways a living man should never be, soulless. The wastes twisted him into something the mind can barely conceive. His shape flickers like heat off a summer road, never settling, never fully human again. Solid but not at the same time. He's like a shadow with form. I know he's all tangled up with Vrock now. I could feel a pull between them, like two storms feeding off the same dark wind. I do not yet understand the depth of it, but whatever he's become out there in the wastes, it is nothing the world was meant to see. What they never counted on was once I was pulled away from my body, my mind slipped free and I could reach the ancestral current. It's like an old, sweet river, older than any map, carrying memories and wisdom the way streams carry paper boats. I'm not a spirit and I'm not a ghost. I'm caught in the space between what I used to be and what I've tried to shield everyone else from. They brought me here by force, and I've tried to cross the yard more times than I can count. The moment my foot touches the ground beyond the porch, I am pulled straight back into that devilish chest. I am not commanded by anything here. I can think, I can speak, I can choose, but I can't leave.
Sibyl felt her heart twist. She turned towards Petra, her voice soft.
Petra, can you see him?
Petra blinked as if adjusting to a new kind of light.
Not at first. Then I felt him touch my shoulder, and he appeared beside me.
He rubbed his palms together, unsettled.
With my gifts, I see spirits all the time, but he was invisible to me until he reached for me. That tells me he's not a spirit at all. Folks from a long time ago would have called him other.
Palmer's expression warmed as he looked at Petra.
You've kept her safe. I am grateful.
Petra nodded, voice thick.
Yes, sir. I always will. But honestly, I think she's kept me just as safe.
Sibyl stepped closer to her father, studying the glow that held him.
If nothing here controls you, then what do you think keeps you tied to this place?
Palmer lifted his hand, and the light around him shifted like water stirred by a fingertip.
Some old magic caught hold of me. Not a creature, not a curse. More like a knot in the world. I pushed against it for months, but it holds. I can move through this house. I can speak to you. I can think clearly, but the boundary is fixed. I cannot cross it, and I can't figure out why.
Then we'll find the knot and loosen it.
A small, tired smile touched Palmer's face.
You have your mother's stubbornness.
Petra stepped closer, shoulders squared as if bracing against a wind only he could feel.
Tell us where to begin.
Palmer's gaze drifted upward, listening to something neither of them could hear.
It is not on this land, not on this soil beneath this house. The knot sits farther out, past the boundary of the property in another part of the world. I can feel it from here, like a distant ache, but I cannot sense its location.
Palmer's glow flickered.
I am tired now. I am still very weak, but my strength is returning. My magic, too, a little.
Sibyl felt a chill slide through her.
Then how do we find it?
Palmer lowered his hand, and the shifting light around him settled into a calm shimmer.
I don't know yet. Not clearly. I need to rest a while longer. Come back in a few days. Your mother is helping me mend, and she has a way of balancing things that even death cannot quite handle.
His voice softened, warm with longing.
I miss you, Sibyl. And you too, Petra. It does my spirit good to see you both, but it is still a comfort having your mother near. She keeps me from drifting when the tiredness pulls at me.
The glow around him thinned, as if the room itself were drawing him back.
Goodbye, you two.
His outline wavered, then faded, gentle as breath leaving a window pane. The last glimmer folded into the chest, and the lid closed with a soft click that almost felt like a blessing. The attic dimmed around them, and the light of day had retreated. Shadows gathered in the corners of the attic, settling in ways that made the room feel watched. Sibyl kept her hand lifted a moment longer, as if the warmth of Palmer's light still lingered. Petra stood beside her, eyes fixed on the chest, his expression steady but unsettled. A faint sound drifted through the boards beneath their feet. Not from the yard, not from the woods, something further. Something was calling from a place they both knew too well. Petra's voice dropped to a whisper.
That came from somewhere beyond the tree line.
Sibyl moved to the window, her pulse hammering. The darkness beyond the property line shifted, a slow ripple that did not belong. The pull of it brushed against her, familiar as an old memory rising from deep water. Petra stepped beside her, jaw set, and without a word, they glinted back to Ravens Vail. Well now, family, I reckon this is where we'll part ways for the evening. The cold of the spring night is sliding down off the ridge, and well, the mountain breeze is starting to nip at my old bones. Best y'all mosey on before pert near freezing to death. Swing back by whenever the notion hits you. There's always another tale waiting to be told about good old Ravens Vail. Now, family, you adults have a few chores to do. Go on over to ravensvail.com and see about doing your chores on social media. Follow us on all the social media platforms that we've made available just for you folks. Like, listen, subscribe, and follow wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you don't mind, leave us a good rating and a kind comment. You'll find the Ravens Vail podcast on your favorite podcast platform. And if you haven't already, just search for Ravens Vail podcast. And again, make sure you hit the follow button to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Oh, and tell your friends about us, won't you? So until next time, family, see you soon.
The Ravens Vail podcast is a production of Small Raven Media. Today's story was written, directed, and narrated by Ed Bolden-Greer. The voice of Reverend Theodore Eugene Atwood was performed by Presley King. The voice of Sibyl Ashford was performed by Kristen Newby. The voice of Petra Hunley was performed by Presley King. The voice of the ghost of Palmer Ashford was performed by Jeryd Bolden-Greer. Audio engineering and sound design by Nick Devan at Nicky D Sound. Copyrighted 2026, Small Raven Media. All rights reserved.